Hello and welcome to the very first episode of this podcast called Dare to Differ. We are your hosts, Ada and Nivya this side. We are third year journalism students who are trying to break down complex topics of the society for you. Education is one of the most powerful weapons. It plays an important role in the empowerment of the underprivileged people. The major act that focuses on providing free and compulsory education in India is the Article 21A of the Indian Constitution. If I have to give you a little bit of background information about the act in itself, the act was an act that existed in our constitution from the day of its implementation. So when the Constitution of India was implemented on January 26, 1950, it had a directive principle, Article 45A, which talks about the free and compulsory education given to all children below the age of 14 years. Later, after the rising up of a lot of case laws and a lot of cries from the people, it was understood that the Article 45A, the right to education, lies parallelly with the right to life. So, Article 45A was changed to Article 21A, which is a fundamental right. Article 21A that we have been talking about so far, as it is, states that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 16 to 14 years in such a manner as the state may by law determine. The path to implementation of right to education and providing education for all was not an easy one. But we should say that India has made a significant progress in terms of education in the last 60 years. Almost 96% of the children between 6 to 14 years are currently enrolled in school, says an article written by Acer in 2012. Since both of us are located in Bangalore, we will be trying to look into the situation of right to education in the state of Karnataka. Here in Karnataka, the Act was implemented in 2010 and the rules of the Act were formulated in 2012. So, if I have to talk about what the Act says here in Karnataka, it says that the government schools will provide free and compulsory education to all admitted children, and similarly, private aided school provides free and compulsory education to all children proportionate to the funding received, which is a minimum of 25%. Since we have been talking about the Act, we can understand the Act is definitely an act that can empower many communities and people. However, there are many downfalls in the law itself. Let's take the case of Karnataka. As we all know, the Congress government has been elected in Karnataka very recently, and the Karnataka government, the Congress-led Karnataka government, has brought in a lot of schemes that helps a lot of people. For example, the Shakti scheme. However, they have forgotten altogether any scheme that could help underprivileged children or can better the situation of right to education in the state. So, saying that, I would now let Ada break down some of these gaps for you.
Hi, I'm Ada and I will be addressing the gaps in RTE Act with respect to its implementation in Karnataka.
Number 1. Shortage of funds. Electricity, water, cleaning of toilets and maintenance of libraries, playground, labs and others. The RTE has prescribed that all these infrastructure norms should be met within 3 years of the Act coming into force in a state, and the recognition of a school should be withdrawn if it does not meet the norms after the deadline. Now, we ask, why are government schools exempt from the application of this law? Also, it is claimed after re-verification that only 38 schools in Karnataka do not have toilet facilities and that all others have drinking water, unlike previous reports. However, one has to view these numbers in the context of the fact that the RTE norms themselves are not very stringent. For instance, they do not prescribe how many toilets there should be for how many students. Also, according to a statement of the Karnataka High Court, it was said that the state of sanitation facilities inside washrooms are pathetic and that no parent would like sending their children there. According to the analysis of Karnataka's latest budget of 2023-24, Karnataka has allocated 11% of its expenditure on education, which is lower than the average allocation of 14.8% for education by states in 2022-23. Also, this budget is 1.4% lower than last year. Now, coming to Rule 4 of the RTE Act, what is it? As per this amendment, a child can be admitted to a private school under RTE quota only if there are no government or aided schools in the locality. In this light, in 2023, there is zero admission RTE quota in 9 education districts across Karnataka: Bangalore North, Chikmagalur, Hassan, Kodagu, Madhugiri, Raichur, Shirshi, Uttara Kannada, and Vijayanagar. This highlights a plummeting interest in student admissions through RTE quota. Now, let's talk about the student-teacher ratio. Ideally, experts believe it to be the best when it is 9:1, which is followed in higher educational institutions. But going by global standards, since we are focusing on the right to education, in primary schools, the ideal student-teacher ratio is believed to be best when it is 16:1, followed in US educational institutions. In India, the ratio is much worse, 24:1, with some teachers involved in non-teaching duties, according to a Human Resource Ministry survey. In this context, let me also introduce you to another government scheme, Ekalavya Model Residential Schools. Started in 1998, Ekalavya schools are set up in states or UTs with grants under Article 275(1) of the Constitution of India. These provide free education to scheduled tribe children from class 6 to class 12. Although there have been significant responses to these schools, in response to a query in the Rajya Sabha, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs said that there were only 4,138 teachers available for 394 Ekalavya schools, whereas the requirement was for 7,030 teachers. Now you can see that there are almost 3,000 teaching positions vacant in these schools. However, in Karnataka, there are also enough reasons for us to be optimistic, as it has the highest percentage of schools with tap water connections under the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. According to a cooked midday meal scheme survey, in majority of the sample selected schools in states like Bihar, UP, West Bengal, the main source of water in the schools was hand pumps. Also, in Bengal, the main source of water in schools was also the dirty pond water, which was used for cooking and washing purposes, according to the same report. As per the Cooked Midday Meal Scheme Guidelines 2006, it is also mandatory for the state governments or UTs to provide essential micronutrients and deworming medicines, which Karnataka is duly following according to the same 2010 report.
Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is one of the most landmark schemes under the purview of the right to education. I will now let Ada talk more about the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan.
On Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Now, what is this and why is it important? Let me explain what it's about. The SSA or Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan was initiated in 2001 following recommendations from the State Education Ministers Conference in 1998, and soon the 86th Amendment made free and compulsory education to the children of 6 to 14 years age group a fundamental right. However, it took 7 years for the Parliament to pass the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act that operationalized the provision of free education. When launched, the SSA aimed to achieve 100% enrollment in a mission mode by 2010. Newer targets have been set after 2010 to comply with these provisions of RTE. Now, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is the main vehicle to implement the Right to Education Act. According to the annual State of Education report from the watchdog NGO Pratham, since 2005, it reveals two major findings: the worsening of learning levels and preference for private schools in the rural India. However, there are also reasons for being optimistic, like I said before. Just being in school does help, regardless of whether you drop out later. There's universal findings from countries as poor as India, such as Mexico, Venezuela, and Nepal, that women with even a few years of schooling experience have more favorable outcomes on a variety of things, from infant and child mortalities to children's cognitive development, family nutritional levels, than women with no schooling at all. Finally, triangulation of information on socio-economic indicators such as caste or community is often missing in joint review mission reports prepared by the GOI. It is fair to assume that educational participation of children from marginalized backgrounds, castes such as women, OBCs, Dalits, remains a challenge. Also, out-of-pocket expenditure in government schools on pretext of textbooks, field visits, and uniforms, they should be avoided, with penalties imposed on schools which endorse these practices. To attract the children finally towards the education, variety of incentives should be provided, like free distribution of textbook and stationery, midday meals which are already there, but they should be improved, attendance scholarship, free transportation facilities, free of cost hostel facilities, etc. Once these steps are taken, we can ensure that Article 21A of the Indian Constitution is duly followed and that education reaches and surmounts every corner of India, including Karnataka, as that was our main focus. With this, thank you.
To the discussion we have had in this episode, it is clear that the right to education system requires significant changes. The right to education's implementation in itself requires to be changed. The right to education system should be reached to more children who are underprivileged. The quality of education provided through the public education system should also be made much better. And the focus should be provided on the holistic education of the student who has enrolled in the scheme. Mental and physical development should be given major priority. With this, I thank all of you who have tuned in to this podcast and stayed with us till the end. Thank you.